Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Rahmanirrahim Maliki Yawmiddin. Okay, so it's kind of strange. Start with Bismillah, start in the name of Allah, and go to woke, which is in the name of Shaitan. We're going to talk today about woke. I know I'm breaking with my commitment to the spiritual path, but it's important that everyone understands what's going on with woke. And the way I'll justify this is by my spiritual models. At one point it's in the first book, I think, my first book, I was concerned with spiritual models, how we could frame the relationship between Sharia and Hakika, between law and absolute truth. And I had a few models. And one of the ones that I found most useful was the garden model. If you do gardening, you learn a lot of things about life. That's why they should be teaching serious gardening in the schools instead of intermediate algebra that no one needs except for engineers and nuclear scientists. But the schools love theory, and that's part of woke, actually. Beneath all the different layers of woke that we'll be talking about is it's not even an idea because they're not even aware of it, but it's this theory. That theory, abstractions, are more important than reality. You know, when I was looking for schools for my children, because I knew there was a problem in schools way before this woke stuff, I came to the Steiner school, the Waldorf school, Rudolf Steiner started, and I saw that they were teaching kids in grade 1 how to make breakfast. I fell in love with the school. And we registered our kids. They're teaching kids something useful. How horrifying to the Ministère de l'Éducation and the other educational authorities to teach kids useful skills. God forbid. Okay. So woke is about teaching everything else. And when you start teaching people things that are not relevant to their life, they get further and further and further away from reality, and in the end you end up with these ridiculous teachings, okay? Like critical race theory. We'll go into that a little bit. That's part of woke. And I just saw, thanks to one of my clients, a presentation from a school teacher who got fed up and left. And she said she was in classes where they were teaching, imagine, they were teaching kids that 2 plus 2 is not always 4, and if you believe it's 4, it's racism.
What?
Yeah, believe it or not. 2 plus 2 equals 4 is racism. Because according to critical race theory, racism is in everything, especially in mathematics. Maybe because white and Chinese kids do better than the brown and black ones. I don't know. But so it's racist, mathematics. You didn't know that, eh? Well, we're learning stuff all the time. So the garden analogy is that you're trying to grow something. You're growing the intellect, you're growing the heart, you're growing the soul of the kids. What are the enemies? What are the predators that are going to undermine your gardening effort? So we have predators and insects. Okay? There's a lot of other stuff there. There's the lighting that we had a problem with in our own gardening. There's the precipitation. There's the quality of the soil. But we're not going to get into all of that today. Predators and insects. Okay, so for those people who are, I thought of this talk mostly for Muslims, but it can be for anyone else. For those trying to develop their spirituality, let's say, within the Islamic context, okay, and I'm sure there's equivalents in, I know about them in Christian and Judaism and Buddhism, etc. What are the two major impediments in if you're trying to help your kids develop spiritually or yourself? What are the two major predators?
The devil.
Yeah, the devil is behind everything.
Okay, so the ego, the nafs.
No, that's not where we're going.
Okay.
Yes, the ego is also, but if you understand that, you're on the path. So we have, and by the way, I hope we'll be able to put the note here, but these YouTube videos are complementary to our website or our blog site, if you want, called SufiPilgrimsProgress.com. Okay, we'll try to put it underneath this video. Can we put it underneath the video? Okay. SufiPilgrimsProgress.com, because there's a 2,000 odd word article on Islamism. I was just talking to a practicing Muslim earlier this morning, and he was unaware of, what a contaminant Islamism is in Islam. Okay, so there's a long article on it rather than a talk, although we might come to a talk at some point, but there's a long article on Islamism that basically I think well summarizes all the issues involved and how it gets in our way. But today we're going to be talking about the other enemy of spiritual development, which is woke, which is heavily embedded in the school system now, more and more and more. And this becomes an issue over time. Now, most immigrants and children of immigrants are not at all aware of this problem. It's kind of subtle underground. For example, I had a good Tunisian friend whose wife was a teacher, and I'd been trying to, and she's always praising the school system, and I tried to send her articles over time, about what's wrong with the school system, and she was idealizing it. I guess maybe it's better than in Tunisia. That's not saying a great deal. But I was trying to tell her there are big problems. The last time I talked to him, he told me they're thinking of moving back to Tunisia. And I know it's because of woke. But they don't understand woke. Why is woke? Because they're teaching the kids all this stuff about LGBTQ2S and all the rest of it. And the kid comes home and says to their practicing Muslim parents, "Mommy, can I become a man?" That's their daughter speaking. The boy says, "Mommy, I think I should become a girl." Then the parents, "Whoa! There's something wrong with the education." I've been telling people for years, and I'm not alone. John Taylor Gatto is a good source, that there's something rotten in the state of Denmark of our schooling system. Very rotten, But when the kid comes home and says, "Mommy, I want to be a girl," or vice, "I want to change my gender," finally the parents click, oh, what's going on here? Maybe we better go back to our home countries, because thank God they wouldn't get away with this in Muslim countries. Thank God. But the Muslims they're unaware. And now they're out there partnering, that's a tough one, with the woke people, in this terrible situation in Palestine and all the rest of it that we won't go into. But they're partnering with the woke people. And some of the right-wing journalists, they like to point it out. These LGBTQ that are saying long live Palestine, if they were there, they would be executed, probably. Or at least dismissed and exiled. So they don't know a lot of people don't know what they're getting into when they mix up with this. So what is this woke? Because it's deep and it's complicated. Now, there are a lot of different things that are connected with woke that people don't even realize. And we will only be able to cover a very small amount of it. But let's try. Okay, so we just mentioned one, LGBTQ2S. Don't say anything against it, no matter what you think, because that's now accepted. It's fine, there's no problem, nothing. The fact that
I thought it was the law of the land.
exactly. There are laws to protect it. You can't say anything about that. So that's just one part. Now, for people of traditional faith, Christians, Jews, Muslims, it's not great. It's not a good thing. They don't like it, but they can't say anything about it. And even myself, I'm very careful. I don't say much about that because it's already become ingrained in our social values. And then we get the other one. This is the sacred cow of sacred cows. I shouldn't be saying anything about it. What is it?
Science? No?
Oh, okay. We're going to get to sciences next. I was going to go first to feminism. Can't say anything against feminism. It's all correct. I'm a man, but I can change if I have to, I guess, they say on the Red Green Show, because men have to change. I'm a girl, a woman, but I'm made of sugar and spice and everything nice. Okay, that's the basic flavor of feminine. The men are always wrong. And if you watch some of the TV shows, which I don't anymore, you'll see that the men are always stupid, the women are smart, and the homosexuals are the smartest. Okay, this is on, just watch some of your CBS, NBC, ABC stuff, and you'll see that's the gradation now. Men are the dumbest, women are somewhat smarter, but gay people, and now I guess transgender, they're the smartest. This is what it's come to. And as Hadi reminded me, another part of woke is science. Oh, science, the great God of science. So wonderful. I like to remind people, okay, so there's this horrible war going on now, right? I think everyone's aware of it. Hamas, Israel, whatever. Everything that's being used to kill people was developed by science and technology. Everything. The missiles, the satellites, the drones, the airplanes, the bombs. You can thank Mr. Nobel of the Nobel Peace Prize for having actually subsidized the development of TNT and explosives in Sweden. Okay, but everyone's science, oh, fantastic. We have a new treatment for wounds on the field that improves the healing time by twice. But where did the wounds come from? Where did the cancer epidemic come from? Where did the Alzheimer's epidemic come from? Where did the ADD epidemic come from? Where did the autism epidemic come from? If you look carefully, you can trace it all back to glorious science. Okay. So, if we did a cost-benefit analysis, really, we'd probably have to forbid most forms of science. And now they're talking about AI, and people are rightfully worried. They're worried, but at the same time, there's a lot of good that's going to come out of it. We just have to manage. Yeah, you're going to, like a lot of other things, you're going to manage it well, like missiles and airplanes and bombs. You manage that one really well, so AI, for sure you're going to manage it well. No, it's going to be a catastrophe. You want to know what AI is? Have a problem with your bank and go onto their website. We have AI already all around us. The only automated thing that works are the bank machines. That's about the only thing I can think of. Everything else automated, it ends up in an impasse. And what do you have to do? You have to call Service à la Clientèle, client services, wait for 45 minutes, speak to someone, and the human being resolves the problem in a couple of minutes usually, my experience. What's the problem? The bank or the government, when you finally get to well-trained human being, they solved the problem. But AI didn't. So we're going to have more and more and more of this. Self-driven cars, but now they're starting to wonder about, especially electric. There's another thing. Climate change. The green economy. Okay. So now we're going to have, the solution is going to be electric cars. Yeah, right. Okay. So they're creating all this pollution, mining stuff, and there isn't enough. I just saw a program yesterday. They're trying to go to Mars because and also to a meteorite because some of the rare metals may be there. That sounds like a great idea. Sounds like a terrific idea. And the electric cars, people are already complaining. Less and less people want them. And no one's even studied the health effects of these things. Thank you, oh God, science. So every time you're accompanying a relative who's dying from cancer or Alzheimer's or Parkinson's dementia, as an old spiritual teacher that I know, anytime you see it, give your thanks to the God of science for this. And pray to God for mercy, because we need a lot of it. We're just getting started here. I want to just throw out a few other terms that are related to woke. Okay, first, before I do that, let me give you a definition, although I don't think this definition really tells us anything, because it's vast. It's very vast now. So, a definition of woke, this is, I think, maybe in Wikipedia, meaning alert to racial prejudice and discrimination that originated in the African American English and has come to, this is the important part, encompass a broader awareness of social inequalities such as sexism, and has also been used as a shorthand for American left ideas involving identity politics and social justice, such as the notion of white privilege. Okay, there's another thing. So, all the left-wing propaganda stuff is all imbued with woke. Okay, so you could, some people, I think it's not exactly accurate, but they identify it with Marxism. They say this is the entrance of Marxism into the Western education, or the Western mindset is all. I don't think that's completely accurate, but a political correctness might be a better way of looking at this than Marxism. Then we have, let's see some of the different issues. They have a sort of list of them. We have also ESG. You know what that is? Probably
No.
not. Economic and social governance. Okay, they were trying to, I think it failed, alhamdulillah, rabbil alamin. They were trying to get all the corporations to adopt woke values and suggesting that the large investment firms wouldn't invest in those companies that weren't going woke. Okay. Which leads us to green energy, solar energy and windmill energy. They all have problems. They're all politically correct woke. Everyone has to have, some people can't live with solar energy in their roof because it generates dirty electricity. It only lasts 20, 25 years. It requires certain precious metals, rare metals, that they can easily run out of or have to go digging and starting practically slave work in Africa to dig out the elements of the minerals required for these solar panels. And then they don't know how to get rid of them when they're beyond their life expectancy. Windmills are driving people crazy, killing many, many thousands, if not millions, of birds. We recently had on the east coast of America whales washing up on shore. They're trying to deny it, but it seemed to have to do with the pillars for the windmills that were somewhat disturbing their movements, and many of them died. People getting really sick who are within a mile or two of the windmills. This is, for anyone with some intuitive sense of things, they're never going to generate enough energy from windmills and solar to run the economies that we're running now. And I don't know what the statistics are, but maybe 10-15% of the energy. And even then, WEF. Anyone know that one?
World Economic Forum.
Good. And who's the head?
Some guy.
Some German guy called Klaus Schwab or something like that. Sorry, I don't remember the name. Klaus Schwab, but something like that. Just look at him. Is this who you want running your world? These zombies. These transhumanists. With all this woke, that's one of the problems with woke, is it generates, the leaders become people who are barely human. They're transhuman. Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg. Even he's a bit of a provocateur, but he's still weird. Elon Musk. All of these people, the developers, supposedly now the richest man in the world, developing these wonderful electric cars, and these satellites, more and more and more, that are generating more EMFs for the Earth. There's some people that are really freaking out about that. Beyond the 5G, all these satellites that are sending down EMFs, electromagnetic fields, down onto the Earth. Without testing out that they're not required, our wonderful governments, all asleep at the wheel, not require any testing of human health for electrical cars, for 5G, for satellites, nothing. All they want is the biggest GNP possible, and then they're good to go. And people have money, they're good to go, but they don't even have that now. So, what is the remedy? I mean, if you start looking at all this stuff, you think, where are we going? Doesn't look like in a good place. And what is the remedy? How are we going to get out of this, these artificial, man-made, hubris-driven values? The answer is actually quite simple. It's the problem that's complicated. The answer is simple. We have to go back to traditional values. You know, I think a lot about something Winston Churchill said a long time ago that applies perfectly to me. He said, if you're young and you're not radical, you've got no spirit. But as you get older, if you don't get more conservative, you've got no sense. Now, I know a lot of radicals that never developed any sense. When I meet the people who were in the left-wing movement with me back in the 70s, 50 years ago, most of them are still caught in the same system. They haven't evolved. They haven't caught on. They're still left-wingers, usually of the same orientation. They didn't even go from Marxist to maybe democratic socialist. No, they stayed Marxist. I have a 100-year-old friend, economist, and she still won't criticize Stalin. Imagine. Took Sartre only 15, 20 years. But they still won't criticize Stalin, because they still believe in the Marxist ideology. Behind all of this is ideology. And what is ideology? It's human mind productions. And what is the opposite? The opposite is the divine will. And divine will has determined a way of thinking, a way of relating, a set of values for us that's in all the religions. It's in every holy book. The divine will, maybe not in some Tibetan Buddhism. Buddhism is a bit problematic, and therefore, of course, the most popular. By the way, a little aside, whatever is most popular, stay away from. It's probably not a good idea.
I have an aphorism for that.
You have Hadi has an aphorism.
So if something is popular, it's probably bad.
Yeah.
And if it's popular with the younger generation, it's definitely bad.
Okay, I'm not sure if that was. You think they hear it?
Yeah, I don't know.
If something is popular, it's probably bad, and if it's popular with the younger generation, it's certainly bad. Okay. We don't want to be too hard on the younger generation. They've just been brainwashed, basically, by this uncreative schooling. this conformist-inducing school educational system, as we call it, which is a diseducational system. Empiricism is also there, thinking that the only reality is the outer reality. Okay, not realizing that the best way to understand reality is by the inner, not the outer, by the heart, by the intention, by the intuition. Those are the things we should be developing. Nothing like that in the schools. I don't know when Daniel Goleman came out with his book, Emotional Intelligence. They still, 40 years ago, they still haven't applied it in the schooling system. They're still teaching mathematics, literature, forms of science. They still haven't got that you have to educate the inner. It's more important than educating the outer.
It's too subtle.
Yeah.
We can't measure it.
Measuring, yeah, that measuring is part of empiricism. So what do we want? We may not succeed, the world may come to an end from this wonderful wokeism, but what do we want? We want to go back to the nature of man. In Arabic they call it al-fitra, the nature of man, the way we were designed to be, something that's simple, humble, and ultimately obedient to the divine order. You know, I talk at times about the moment where I was convinced about marriage. Most people are still not convinced about it. Sometimes even people who say they're religious, but alhamdulillah, in Islam it's okay. Most people realize that you got to get married. But I remember when I was contemplating this issue, and I went to see one of my earliest teachers from Sri Lanka, Bawa Mokhayedin, very powerful spiritual being, and he looked at me through his interpreter, said to me, "And my son Ibrahim, and marriage is from the order of Allah." Wow, put me into a state for a few days afterwards, just to recover from that. But what was he doing? He was bringing me out of my left-wing values. Well, we'll just have relationship as long as we're nice to each other. Like Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist, teaches, as long as you're kind and compassionate, it's okay. No, there are divine orders, and one of the divine orders is marriage. Marriage is from the order of Allah, and since then it's only been marriage. But people think, oh, I have a better idea. Marriage gets you into trouble, then you have these divorce proceedings. And in fact, it's only a civil procedure. It's a divine order. In the old days, they also had, besides the marriage, they had slaves or concubines. But those days are over. Sorry, ISIS, but those days are over. There's no more slavery. So marriage is from the order. This is the fitra. This is the nature. And many other things. Children respecting their parents and their elders. I had a teacher who was telling me, this job is my vocation. I loved it. I can't stand it anymore. I said, why not? She said, oh, the kids, they're so disrespectful of teachers. They say from K to 12, they like that term in U.S., K to 12. How many times did you tell the kids in the class, you have to respect your elders? You have to respect your parents. She thought about it. 0 is the answer. 0. They're never taught respect for their elders. It's a bit different in Islamic schools, but I think even in Catholic schools, the ones my own children attended, they don't teach this. So I said, what do you expect if you never teach the kids to respect that? No, what do they teach them? If your father threatens you, just call 911. Get a social worker on the case. They'll come to your house. And I tell them, yeah, they come to your house. If they find your father in the wrong, they'll take you out. And they'll put you in a group home. And in the group home, you won't have any rights, no extra allowance, no special food, nothing. But most people don't know that, so they get intimidated, and the kids get arrogant. You can't tell me anything. And I see that over and over again, actually, nowadays, you know. Younger people, they think they know better. I mean, the people like we've been around for over 70 years. We know, we learned something, most of us. Not all, there's some vieux radoteux, as they say in French, like old fogies who don't. But most people, when they get old, they know something. So it's normal for younger people to respect elders. I saw beautiful examples of that actually in Damascus. I remember at the Mosque of Ibn al-Arabi, the way they respected their elders. And some of them were barely able to walk, and there were stairs. They would carry the person into the mosque, and there was a deep respect for elders. I remember when I was moving out of Damascus, maybe I didn't consider myself an elder, but I was in my 60s, and all these young people, they would insist on helping me, that I not lift anything. I came to Canada, moved into my apartment then, and there were 3 adolescents or young men standing around the porch. No one offered to do anything. I was carrying boxes, no one offered to do. But in Damascus, they had that respect still. And then, well, we know Damascus turned sour for many reasons. But the idea of respecting elders is one of those traditional values. Respecting elders, believing in God, praying, being obedient to the divine orders as much as were possible, respecting nature, being kind to your neighbors. Of course, that's accepted in the liberal view. I don't know, the woke people don't talk too much about it, but because they're too narcissistic. But that's a whole other story. But this is where we have to go. So largely nowadays the right-wingers are on the right track. The good ones. I'm not saying there aren't corrupt ones and nasty ones, but the right wing is the right place to go. I'm just hoping for a Republican president and Congress in the United States. Maybe they'll be able to correct some of this stuff, inshallah. We ask God for Allah for help,
Ameen.
because we are deeply in need of it. We're in deep, you know what, this entire world, and it's not getting better for the meantime. So we ask Allah to help us
Ameen.
to improve our situations and to give us from His compassion
Ameen.
and to shift things around
Ameen.
towards the way it's supposed to be, not the way man thinks it should be.
Ameen.
Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, salamun ala mursalin. Al-Fatiha.